Here in Australia and a lot of other countries around the world, the 300 two-stroke is the biggest seller for KTM, Husqvarna, Sherco, Gas, and the beaters we have behind us. And the demand is pretty much the same, if not more, for their up-specced 6-day or racing or any of those other 300 models. But what sets beater aside from the rest of these manufacturers is the fact that they also offer a down-specced 300 two-stroke, the X-Trainer 300. Now in its 6-year production, it's a lower, detuned version of their RR300, their standard model, designed as a cost-effective stepping stone machine for those who don't want or need a seriously equipped enduro weapon, or those guys that aren't ready for one. So the way beater market this bike, it's not only for the inexperienced riders, but it's designed to be as an entry-level bike, but also appeal to many different riding capabilities, including new off-road riders wanting to ride trails, as well as the more experienced riders wanting to step into more extreme and hard enduro. This versatility is reflective in the fact that this bike behind us and this bike here are Beater's two best-selling bikes here in Australia. And for 2020, this X-Trainer gets totally revamped. It gets the new Counterbalance Engine, new changes to the bodywork and chassis, the lower seat height, and a bunch more changes. Specifically, it gets a new front fender and headlight mast, a redesigned radiator shrouds, a new map switch, a longer swing arm, new final gearing, new chain guide, front fork and rear shock, and handlebar protection. So that's a little bit of an insight into what the new technical changes on the bike are, but as we know, technical changes either transfer onto the trail or they don't. So we're lucky enough a couple of months ago to test Beater's entire new range of 2020 models, which you can check out on our website. But one major thing that came from that launch up at Kyogo was we didn't get to ride the X-Trainer. It wasn't in the country yet, and with all these big changes, we were really excited to get our hands on it. So here we are a couple months later, we've hooked up with our mates at Hawkesbury Motorcycles. They're now Sydney's one and only Beater dealer. So we've whipped the bikes off from them, taken them out for a one-day test at one of our local spots, which is pretty tech. Like, we wanted to give this bike a good test and throw it up stuff that we're not 100% confident in and see if it'll push our confidence a little bit further and see if we can get up stuff that we struggle even easier, or if it's going to be more of a novice's bike where it isn't that capable. So it was really interesting taking up a whole bunch of different terrain today, from technical, climby, rocky stuff to a bit of flowy single track and the odd fire road. So for myself, I class myself the intermediate kind of weekend guy. That's kind of where I sit, go ride with a bunch of mates, and I'm kind of your mid-pack guy out on the trails. For me, I really liked it on the techie stuff and anything tight. The tighter the better is where this bike performs. We had like a little special chest going on with a few berms and stuff, and even like a little rut track. Like, it's awesome in there, and then on the techie climbing stuff, it really shined. The power plant on it is where I really liked it. Compared to the RR300, Beater's standard bike, which for me, I like that 300 in the more open to flowy single track, but when you get a little bit tighter, it almost feels like a bit too much bike for me. Like, when you're hanging off the back and you just got to pop the clutch to get over things, I'm almost a bit timid to see if it's going to rip my arms off or what it's going to do. Whereas this the X-Trainer, where it really shined is you almost know where all the power is under you, and you can load it up a little bit before and just work the clutch, and you don't need a whole lot of revs to lug up things. It'll just climb up with the lower gearing in it, and it's got a hell of a lot of torque, which is great because it'll just lug up things. So I think that's where the X-Trainer really shined. Where the RR had it over the X-Trainer for me was anywhere where you got a little bit of speed up. Because the X-Trainer's got a slightly smaller frame and a slightly smaller chassis, it wasn't as stable at high speed. So on stuff where you're flowing and connecting corners together where it's not tech, I found the RR still a better bike because you're up in that kind of mid range of the power and the meaty bit of the power, and it's that's where you want that extra power, and you can go around, you can link your corners together, and it felt really good. The X-Trainer wasn't bad in that. It was almost like riding a 125 chassis with a 250-300 motor package in it, which is great because it was super skinny between your knees, and the lower seat height made it awesome to turn. It just didn't have that straight line stability like the RR model did. So the whole package of the X-Trainer was really quite different. I thought myself, being a taller rider, I wasn't gonna like it. I thought it was gonna be really low, and I thought I was gonna be like praying mantis style, just leaning over the thing, but it was a little bit cramped between foot peg and seat. But in doing that, you could lean the bike over a little bit more. If you're like sitting on a fire road, just cruising along on the seat, yeah, you're a little bit cramped. But for me, between foot peg and bar height, that felt relatively normal. It only really affected it, like I said before, on that straight line stability, where you need that kind of longer wheelbase and that longer frame just to give you that rigidity and just extra stability. So just in case you're looking at this RR model and thinking, God, that's not really standard. It's got a bunch of bling bits on it. Hawkesbury Honda just threw a few bling bits on it, like bash plate, shark fin, a few other protective parts, like some good wraparound handguards, which were a big improvement on the standard handguards. They are a bit flimsy, but they just threw them on for the demo days I've been running lately, and we've just picked the bike up at the end of that. So it was good to give the bike a bit of a test and have that extra insurance there with some protection parts. So that's a bit of feedback personally on my experience with the RR versus the X-Trainer. But we didn't want just one person's opinion, because this bike is for your intermediate or your more novice guy or someone that's in between. Like, it's really good. So we got Sal here, who ain't a novice rider. He's very capable, but I was watching him today get up some stuff that he'd never even look at. And today he's leading in front of me and I'm struggling to chase him because he's just popping up over everything. So Sal, what's your rundown on the bike? Why do you feel so confident on it today?
Yeah, well, it's funny, like, as you said, I come out here quite often on my personal bike, and some of the trails we rode today, I struggled so much usually on my bike, just not even looking at it and going, nah, I'll get off and I'll drag it up. But I don't know, riding the X-Trainer, it just made me feel really comfortable. I come from a bit more of a mountain bike background, and I guess to compare it, it felt like a BMX compared to most dirt bikes. It was just really easy to stand over the bars and have that control over it. And I think it just gave me that extra confidence, and especially with how low it can chug. I'm not used to riding a two-stroke where you can kind of just let it do its thing. You're usually trying to rev it out and worried about fouling plugs and all that sort of stuff. But this thing just chugged. I was on the clutch a lot and it just kept going up, and it was really good. So I just got in that mindset that I could kind of ride up anything, and the bike took me there. It was a really good experience. Yeah.
So it's good to see you with a bit more confidence out there, mate. You were killing it.
Definitely felt good.
Yeah. So how's it feel compared to the standard RR model in your opinion?
Yeah, so look, the RR300 is a great bike, and especially compared to what I usually ride, it's miles ahead. And I straight away jumped on that before I got on the cross trainer, or the X-Trainer, however you want to say it. And it straight away felt a lot more comfortable, and it was great. It was really nimble. It was quite slim. The only thing I found was it was a little bit intimidating. I'm just not used to riding such a big, powerful bike, and I felt like as soon as I was getting into it, it was out of my depth. And riding up rock steps and stuff like that, it's really good down low. And if you're really good on the clutch, which I'm not really that great, it's great. It chugs really well, and you can get up pretty much anything you point it at. But then jumping on the cross trainer, it was like another step further in comfort and just feeling like I know what I'm doing on the bike. The low seat really helped with me. I'm a bit of a shorter guy. Same as like what you said, if you're riding sitting down on the fire trail out of the bush, you can cramp up a little bit, but standing up, it still feels like a normal bike. It doesn't feel any smaller, which was quite amazing actually. But and then yeah, it really helped in that technical stuff. But for me, I just based on how I ride and my skill level, I would jump on the cross trainer any day of the week.
So a few other major differences between the two bikes is the cross trainer is almost 4.5 kilos lighter. Now that's made up with an 8.5 litre fuel tank versus a 9.5 on the RR, so you're not going to get as much range out of the bike. We haven't tested how far each bike will get. That's not to say that the X-Trainer might not be as thirsty as the RR. That's something we'll have to look into later. Another major difference is the fork. So on the X-Trainer, the forks are 43mm, and on the RR model, the forks are 48mm. So there is a fair bit of feel difference in that, because the 43 is good for this slow, rocky stuff like this, where you've got to climb up and you can kind of push the fork into things. The plushness of it's great, but when you got that high speed, kind of choppy, rocky stuff, it is a bit blows through its stroke, and it becomes a bit harsh because you are sitting further down in the stroke, which is what you'd kind of expect it to do. Like, it's not designed to be a high speed, aggressive bike that you ride that way like you do the RR, which the RR, the fork stands up a lot taller in its stroke, and you can just plow through sections and it holds it a little bit better. It's not a night and day crazy difference. It's more if you're just trying to push the boundaries of what the bike can do.
Yeah, and just on that point, Jared, I noticed today when riding the X-Trainer, especially in a lot of those really tricky kind of rutted out rock steps where it's one line and you're pushing your front wheel into it, that just popped up really well. And you could feel the forks like take all the load and kind of just roll up. On the RR, it was still good, but it just felt like it kind of bounced around a little bit. Like you'd get up and it would lift, and it might be to do with the power as well, but I definitely noticed that in the fork. It's a lot easier in the technical stuff on the X-Trainer. But yeah, as soon as we were riding on some more of that flowy stuff, even just trying to get it into the corners, it felt a little bit, I guess not stable in a way. It just kind of felt like it was bumping around a little bit. But for this stuff out here, it was great.
And then there's a major factor, which your wife's always considering. It's the price. So the X-Trainer is remarkably a fair bit cheaper than the RR model. We won't delve into specifics because it's different on-road costs and different by state, but we'll link to it in our website. But it's definitely worth considering looking at the price difference. But for more specifics on prices, check the video description below or check it out on our website.
All in all, I reckon we've had a pretty good day out here,
yeah,
testing both these bikes. They're equally good in their own special way. What for you? What would you ride? What would you take out on your weekend rides?
For the stuff I do, because I love chasing that flowy single trail stuff where it's a little bit higher speed, I do a fair bit of this techie stuff, but I reckon I could get used to the RR300 and the techie stuff because I still love chasing that flowy single trail. So for me, for my ability, I'd still go the 300.
Nice. Yeah, for me, I think I'm a bit on the opposite end of the spectrum here. I'm a little bit more of a novice. I'm not interested in going that fast. And I like challenging myself in a lot more technical terrain. So I think for me, on those reasons only, I'd go the X-Trainer. A bit lighter, a bit more nimble, just easier for me to ride, and I just feel more comfortable on it. So that's my choice.
So that's our first impression of a one-day test between these two bikes. Make sure you check out the other videos we've done on Beta's 2020 range. We've broken down our picks out of the entire range, our picks between the 2-strokes and the 4-strokes, and we've also enlisted Jeff Ballard to see what his pick of the bunch is. So make sure you check out our other videos before taking that step into testing a Beta yourself or rocking down to your local dealership.